So if I were to ask, what is the one thing that you could do right now to charge more, to increase your brand's perceived value, and to have a much better quality production, the answer would be framing. As you're making your videos, if the framing is good, that sets you apart from all of the other creators. And this is exactly what some of the top creators are doing. Today's video, we're gonna break down how some of these creators are framing their videos, how to put it all together, and these are some of the same techniques that I've used over my last 7 years as a videographer, filmmaker. And in today's video, by the end of it, you should be able to have a step-by-step playbook to follow to know exactly how to frame your own videos as well. So let's begin and take a look at our first creator. All right, so the first creator we're gonna look at, Teo Crawford. Now, for Teo's video, it's actually a very simple way to frame your video. Now, if you look at him, it only has one beautifully lit natural light coming from the window going in. So it looks like he only has one light source on the left side of his face, and the rest is very dark, which makes it kind of dramatic actually. So he has one just lighting coming in, making the rest dark and cinematic looking, kind of like he's presenting something in one of those Netflix documentaries. But what actually makes this beautiful is a lot of the background things that are happening. So you can see from his clothing collection, it's all very neutral colors and tones that fit with his whole aesthetic. There's film being framed on the side, like the back over there, and there's an aesthetic cut literally right in front of you. So he has a lot of things that are making this look a lot more beautiful. So for him, it's more of a tasteful display of appreciation of aesthetics. And so for anyone that sees that, they'll see and appreciate what he's done to get this shot, because not everyone will have this taste to be able to do something like that. And by watching him, you can see that he's been in this for a while. Actually, now that I note, there's another source of light. I think behind him, there's a source of light on the bottom that's bringing something up. So it could potentially be probably not a salt lamp, but a little bit brighter than a salt lamp. So that makes it kind of highlights him from the back. So it outlines the figure of his body, or his whole face and shoulders and chest and everything. So it, in a way, brings out his shadows a bit more. It's kind of like when you're outside, the sun setting, and the sun is right behind you, just illuminating you. So it casts like this kind of epic looking, it makes you look kind of epic, you know? So he has that going for him, and he's also utilizing the rule of thirds. So if you can see, he's about a third of the whole frame going horizontally. Now, he's also done this in a very tasteful way as well. So if you look at the table, it's about 2/3 of the way, and then he is about a third of the full thing. But he's not really the one separating it out into quadrants. The table is the thing that is 2/3 of the way, and then he is just within that area. So this is very tastefully done. He's a professional at this, and you can tell just from the way he's framed all of this. And let's go on to the next creator. So the next one we have is YCImaging. I like YC's imaging because he uses many different camera angles in this one shot. So we're gonna play this, and you're gonna see it starts off on the right of him, goes to the center of him, and then it's going to move to the left of him. Now, it's actually pretty easy to do this, right? Because you're just talking, you have the camera over there first, and then you're talking again, and then you bring the camera to the front of you, and then you're talking again, and then you bring the camera to the left of you. But it does take a bit of practice for you to be able to talk, and then stop halfway, get out, move your camera, bring it to the front, and then talk a bit, get your ideas flowing, and then again, pick the camera up, and then move it to the other side. But the way that he's framed it is very beautiful, so I want to highlight it. So if we go back to the first one, you can see that this framing is a bit different from the other one, because this one, he's framed very small. He is just this tiny little figure in this wide, expansive scene. And this is cool because this kind of shows what is happening in this whole area, where he's at, how vast and expansive, and how it's kind of like just a small little quiet town, and he's out there just talking to you. It's like one of those hangouts when you're a kid and you're hanging out with your friends during summer break right before school starts, and you're just exploring your little town, and then you come upon this place and you're just hanging out and talking. Now, moving on to the next shot, he kind of has this like medium shot that shows his legs and his body and the chairs, and it's probably, I'm guessing, like maybe 35 millimeter on a full frame, maybe if you're shooting crop sensor 20 something. And so he'll have this one, and then he's moved the camera to a different location, so from the right of him to the center of him. And then as we move on to the next shot as well, he's going to move the camera angle a lot closer. So now he's doing a shot where it's just from the chest up. And in these three shots, you saw three things happen. So first was the camera angles switches, and the second was how close he got to show the scene. So he showed, and this is kind of like a cinematic technique, where you have one wide shot that covers everything, a medium shot, which was the last one we just looked at with his knees and showing his knee and up, and then finally the close-up shot, which is him talking now. And he's framed it in a way where he has a lot of empty space on the sides for him to add things like this graph and this chart. And on the bottom, the text is a really nice touch as well. The way that he's made this text is very nice. It's a condensed font and all capitalized, and it's very on brand with him being someone that's contemporary. So this is a very contemporary font. You could probably see it in a lot of modern marketing, like advertisements. They might have some disclaimer on the bottom, and on top he's also using some very contemporary fonts, potentially could be the same one as well, and some very contemporary colors. He's using black and white, which of course never goes out of style, but the shade of grays that he's using, those are very much in line with how some of the top brands are doing it. Like if you look at Everlane or something, they're doing this type of gray colorway as well. So the next creator we have is Life of Riza. Now, Life of Riza is actually a full-on treasure chest of inspiration because her shots are so well done. And I'm just covering one, but if you watch all her videos, there's a lot of different shots that you can emulate and just pull inspiration from. So this first one, we're seeing she's actually on the floor, which is very different from a lot of other creators who are probably talking on a table and just sitting and presenting. But here she is on the floor, and behind her is this framing of the cabinet on one side, the chair on one side, and then she's also shooting it on a triangular, or not triangular, but a corner of a room, so that it gives this impression of vastness. So if you're in a more of a confined space and you want to have it give this impression that it's a little bigger than it is, having a triangle is flattering. So I'm actually using the same effect too when I'm shooting here, because as you can see, there's a back there. I'm gonna put some plants and stuff around. I just moved here. And so with that, you can see she's also done some very tasteful displays of appreciation of aesthetics. So she has these vintage looking, first off, chair, and then the frames, which makes me think of like vintage Americana. And the house also has kind of that feeling like if you were in Washington, D.C. or District of Columbia or something, you might see this type of wall with the, I'm not sure what the panels are, but those types of panels. You could also see it in vintage European style architecture as well. And then she has this cabinet thing that's really cool, lined up with books, a vintage film projector thing, a light, which like some of the other creators, they have a light source in the back that's just kind of there to illuminate the scene, but not really light up the subject. And then there's her here. Now, I'm guessing she has a giant dome light or something lighting her up, but it's done in a way that it looks so natural that I might even think this is a natural light. So I can't really tell, but I think she actually has a dome light because I'm going to cheat here. I actually watched some of her videos highlighting how she set her stuff up, and she does have a big light. So potentially she's using that here. Also, you can see she's draped this vintage looking cloth thing over the chair to have a bit of an accent on that piece. And then there's more books stacked up. There's marble granite countertop with the brass legs. All of this is tastefully put together and all thought out. So it's beautifully, beautifully done. Also a bit of the greenery here, which almost slipped through, but it's there to just add to the scene. All right, so that's life for Riza. Now the next one is Goergene, I think, and he's a cool creator that shows off his space. So this is his house that he frequently shows how to make the most of. So this video is how to make a small room look bigger, and there's a lot of things going on here. So the first one that I'll break down is the lighting. And if we look at the lighting, it seems like there's a natural lighting on the side, but he's also being lit up by some artificial lighting as well. And it's apparent because you can see how warm the tone is on his face. So it's making me think there's a light on the top right side of him that's coming down, and on the left, the light looks a bit more natural. So I'm guessing that's from the daylight coming in. Because if you look even at my face right now on this video, the natural light is a bit more white, whereas if you're using that inside warmer light, you can control it obviously, but for his look right now, it's more warm, and it's also accented by the light in the back. That's also another warm light. And there's a lot going on in this one that makes it also very tastefully put together. So he has all these toys and stuff displayed here. It looks like a cause or something, and then there's a Porsche, some books lined up as well. And the way that these cabinets are done, it's also in a way that's tastefully done and modern. The greenery is a nice touch. I'm not a plant expert, but something like this in this specific color adds this pop to his room. And then there's another plant here, I'm guessing. And then the chair is also done very well too. Like, a lot of the pieces that he has here are very hip and modern, and you would see this type of inspiration in places like maybe Bangkok or the Arts District in LA or Copenhagen or something like that. It's very modern and in a way references mid-century modern, which is like design that's popular in the 1960s, but it's gotten a bit of a resurgence. But now they've added a pop of color to it, because we've seen it move from millennial minimalism to now having much more color in different pieces that people like to display in their interior design. So moving on from this one, we have Tatsuki. And Tatsuki here does a very minimal setup, I'd like to say. And it's also very tastefully done. So he has first of all, a wide lens, which is different from the setup that the other creators have. And I believe here is all natural lighting. So with the all natural lighting, it's kind of like what mine is right now. It's completely natural. He has a bit of color grading on it to make it a certain color. And from the back of him, you can see that there's all of this tastefully curated things that add to the scene and shows that he is somebody that appreciates aesthetic and is modern and hip with the aesthetics. So first off, all the plants, the stacked up books, which even if we don't know the books, this is a good look. And there's also all these other little trinkets that it's reminiscent of like stuff that you would see on Pinterest if you look up home inspiration aesthetics or something. So with all those put together, it comes out with this scene. You could also see the genius in his framing as well, where he does the rule of thirds, where the middle is slightly exaggerated more than the other two sides, and him being in the center as the center framed subject implementing the rule of thirds. So many different things going on here. Rule of thirds, emphasis in the middle, and you can see that it also does another rule of thirds as he is only 2/3 of the way up to the top of the screen, and the other side is kind of a minimal element, but there's the triangle, which is very appealing in photography. There's this saying that like if you want something to be visually appealing as you're shooting a photo, try to implement as many triangles in it as you can, and this implements that technique as well. So let's move on to the next one, Howitt. Now, I really like his shots because he does this thing where he shows off the places and things very well. And the shot that I want to highlight is this one here, where he's doing the vlog and he shows off this entire beautiful background of Lombok. Of course, not everyone can have this beautiful, beautiful scenery, but I just want to highlight a couple of the things that's going on here. So first off, we just mentioned the triangle. So there's the triangle in the formation of the couch. Instead of just like a full-on frontal shot, he has a triangle shot here at the corner of the compound that he's at. And then him being a subject, a small subject on this side there. But at the same time, it's very visually and aesthetically pleasing. And then here's another friend that comes in, and you can see that it implements the rule of thirds as well. If you look at the couch on the left, for example, it goes about 2/3 of the way over, and then him and his friend is about 1/3 of the way on the other side. And then now, if you look at the horizon is kind of like around here. At least that's where the ocean is. And this one also, in a way, implements the rule of thirds as well, but it's not completely exactly towards the grid if you were to separate it out into the rule of thirds. But you can kind of see that it goes 2/3 of the way up if you count it from the top of the mountain. And there's a lot of things that are going on, like the railing being close to here, that emphasizes more weight on this subject. So it doesn't have to all the way go up to hit the 2/3 way for the rule of thirds, but it's still implementing how visually appealing that aesthetic or that technique is. And also the aesthetic of his whole thing right here is amazing, super warm, feels like it's a vintagey kind of vibe, which I think is what he's going for, because in the early, as we came into this video, he's using like this flickering kind of film look on the fonts and the text and whatnot. So that's the whole look. The editing is great. And it's also, I'm just trying to figure out if he put on a special filter on there, for example. But if you watch some of my videos, you can see it as well. I have a black mist filter where it makes everything like a slightly bit out of focus, and it's kind of this mystical effect on it, which is really cool. I really like implementing that. So that's Jai. He has some cool videos, very, very aesthetically pleasing. And then the last one we're going to go over is Caroline Winkler. Now, her setup is kind of simple, but she has 687,000 subscribers. She knows what she's doing. And at first I was like, oh, this is something that is, because at the beginning of her video, it looks super simple. Like a lot of the instructors that on Skillshare, that the platform that I teach on a lot, they have setups like this. But the way that she implements it later on and how she does the cuts on, or how she cut it to be on the side and has the presentation on the other side, it's done very well. So let's pause it and break it down. So for her here, she is centered directly in the center, which is like if I were to move right here, I guess I've been moving around a bit, but if she's set up directly in the center, and she's talking there, and then behind her, there's all of these other elements. So first of all, the curtain, and then she has some paintings, and which I do have some paintings over there, but it's not in frame right now. And then she has a light element, some flowers, and then in front of her, there's the laptop, which is similar to what my setup is right here, the laptop right here. And then there's this cup, which is also very aesthetically pleasing. We saw someone else, another creator with that same look, but this is one that a lot of creators could emulate and do if you wanted to. So you can see that she has a nice natural light coming in on the side, front side, which is kind of like what I have right now. So if you want that look, you can have the front side, like mine is to the left, hers is to the left as well, but it doesn't matter which side. And the camera is more directly facing in front of her. So my camera is a bit on the right, but hers is directly facing in front of her. And it gives us that look with the side front lighting. And with the side being kind of dark, it brings out that epic cinematic, like this person is dramatic as they're presenting kind of feel. But hers not so much because she's very lighthearted. And you could also see that she's prepped herself up to wear yellow and to look really friendly and presentable. So hers is very beautifully done, and in a way that, like, if you are a creator and you want to mimic somebody or draw some inspiration from somebody's framing, hers is one of the best ones because it is relatively simple in that it's a direct shot, and it's more so implementing how certain perfectly framed things look well. So like perfect as in it's just lined up very well. So if you're shooting something and you want an easy way to frame, just having everything lined up very well is a easy way to achieve a good look instead of decorating this, decorating that, worrying about lighting or where your studio lighting should be. Having just a minimal setup with things lined up like how she has it is something that is accessible by everybody. And so that's the end of this video. If you want to work together, there's links and resources below that you could check out, and feel free to reach out to me. I'm always open to discuss how to do more of this stuff, branding, marketing, putting your brand out online, and creating a lifestyle on the internet for you with your personal brand. All right, I'll see you in the next video.